G'day guys, I'm Ryan, your Chief Espresso Officer, and today I'm going to go over some overlooked but super simple mistakes that you're probably making at home you don't even realize that can drastically affect the flavor of your coffee and are super easy to fix. So let's get into it. Okay, so the very first mistake that most people make, especially if you're having lattes, cappuccinos and flat whites or any milk-based coffee, is choosing the wrong milk. Now, I love non-homogenized milk. It's just super creamy, it's got such flavor and doesn't have a whole bunch of additives in it. But if you're going to the supermarkets and buying the cheapest milk you can buy, like $1 a litre milk, or even less, it's not gonna taste that great because it's watered down. They actually dilute it with water so that if you put this out in the sun alongside one from a supermarket, this would still look pretty much the same. However, the supermarket one would be mostly water. This is going to drastically affect your flavor in your coffee. You just can't expect your coffee to taste good when 90% of it is cheap, watered, diluted milk. So don't worry if you're using a skim milk or a half and half or a lactose free or an oat or an almond or a full cream. Look for the best quality milk. If you're drinking your cereal, sure, get your cheap $1 a litre milk. That's not going to affect the flavor so much. But your coffee is the most important meal of the day and you're going to cheap out on some subpar milk. I would definitely recommend non-homogenized, full of cream. Just the best when you crack the lid and you get all of this lovely cream inside it. Look at that. Tastes great, and that will taste great in your coffee. Now, another thing that you will never be able to control and make a great coffee if you don't already have fantastic tasting coffee beans. And so how do you know whether you've got high quality, fantastic tasting coffee beans? Well, you need to talk to the supplier, whether that's your local roaster, a roaster online. If you're buying it from a supermarket, chances are it's not going to be high quality. And even if it is high quality, make sure that it's the right type of coffee beans for your machine. If you're doing a plunger and you just drink it black, a light roasted coffee might be perfect for you and your flavors. But if you're adding milk and you're trying to make an espresso coffee, you don't want a light roasted coffee, you want a medium roasted coffee. You don't want a dark roasted coffee either, because that, unless you're really into those bitter, burnt, dark flavors that really punch you in the face, then of course you're going to like the dark roasted coffee. However, if you want those subtle characteristics like a caramelly, malty, fruity sort of coffee, go for a medium roast coffee and make sure that it's relatively expensive, because the higher the cost of the coffee, generally speaking, the better quality that coffee is. Some of the roasters like us, we actually spend more money when we are buying the coffee beans from the farmers because they get more money back to invest in their families, their livelihoods and their businesses, which means that we can always consume coffee from them for years to come, instead of paying them under the average wage, which a lot of the big companies like to do, and that just then burns them out and eventually they run out of business. All right, so you've got the great tasting coffee, you've got your great tasting milk. Now we can focus on the things that you're doing at home that might also be causing all of those nice things to disappear. One of the most overlooked things that I always find is cleaning your machine. It's such a simple thing, yet we forget to do it because we're in a rush. We want to make the coffee, then we want to get to work or get out and about. And we forget that actually, if you don't clean this machine, this starts to taste pretty yucky. And if any of you have ever smelled what rancid coffee smells like, it's close to sewage and it is not nice at all. Back in the old days when, you know, we used to have the chef's frying pans that would have 1,000 plates coated on it, that's one theory. We now believe in another school of thought, which is you need to keep this nice and clean and not 1,000 coffees in there caked over time. So that this person here, not very good at cleaning their machine, not going to point finger at anyone, but they need to soak this in chemical, get that look nice back to the brass and make sure that your coffee tastes super clean. Compared to this one, which has been used today, but we've just wiped it out and we clean this as we go. This one has probably never been cleaned out. Now here's a simple one that I see being overlooked all the time. It's got to do with cleaning your machine, but as you go. I'm gonna run this shot and I'm gonna show you exactly what's going on after you have made the shot with the water. And this is important because this is affecting your next shot of coffee. So, now here's something you probably haven't thought of. I've made my first coffee, and now I'm gonna make my second coffee because, you know, me and my wife, we both want a coffee. If I don't flush the water out of the group head before I make my next coffee, just have a look up underneath and see the dispersion screen, how much mess that's from one coffee is left behind. If I put water through it and made my next coffee without purging the water, look at how dirty that water is. It's absolutely disgusting. That's just a simple purge. I'm just running a little bit more water through it before I make my next coffee. Now, have a look at what the water looks like. There's still bits of grind in there. But which coffee water would you rather have in your cup of coffee? Now, if you want to get really specific, use a blind portafilter. This, they get, I think these are about $5. And you can use other methods to do it if your machine doesn't come with one, but every machine should come with one at home. If you really want to clean your machine, back flush it before every single coffee that you make or after. Have a look at just how many grinds are left in there after one single coffee. That is such a simple trick, but so many people forget about it, and it's so easy to do, and you can eliminate that dirtiness that might be happening in your cup of coffee. This is something that's super easy. Again, a lot of people forget to do this, but it can make the world of difference. I'm gonna show you what it is. This portafilter needs to be piping hot. It shouldn't be cold. I see a lot of cafes just leave their portafilters on the bench like that. Or if you're at home making coffee, you might just have turned the coffee machine on, so it's been off all night. This is cold, but your machine boils the water in a couple of minutes. However, this is still cold. If you can hold your fingers on it like that, it's not hot enough. And you need to run water through it just to make it hot. Okay, now I can't touch that anymore. And that's piping hot now. And that makes great coffee. Let me show you the two side by side of a cold portafilter versus a hot portafilter and see if you can see the difference. So what's actually happening here on the cold portafilter is that the energy used is expended in heating up the portafilter itself. So it's not having the amount of time that it normally would have to extract all of those gorgeous, lovely tasting oils. Have a look at how black and dark, thin and wavy that coffee is looking compared to when the portafilter is piping hot, and it just gets all of that energy spent on heating and extracting oils from the coffee itself. So that's why it's super important to always have a piping hot portafilter. In the morning, just make sure that you run some hot boiling water through there and then make your first coffee. And while we're on the subject of cleaning, don't forget your grinder. This is something else that a lot of people forget about because they might spend all their time cleaning the machine and forget how dirty your grinder gets, because the same coffee, the same oils are going through that and they're sticking to the sides, and if you don't clean them, they'll cake up, and that will definitely cause a rancid, sort of dirty, muddy flavor in your coffee. So every grinder is different. I can't go into how to clean every single grinder right now. Use your manual, find out how to clean your grinder, and make sure you do that probably if you're at home once every month, depending on how many coffees you make. And if you're in a professional workspace, definitely needs to be done weekly. So there's a few mistakes that are often overlooked, but are super simple to fix and will definitely make sure that you have a tastier, yummier coffee every time. And if you like the content and you want to subscribe, please, I'm much appreciative of that. Or just give me a like if you don't want to subscribe. And if you want to delve deeper into how to get the ultimate barista techniques, jump on my website, ultimatebaristacourse.com, We have a ton of different range of different videos there, and you can find out exactly what you're doing wrong as we dive deep into making the perfect espresso. I'm Ryan, the Chief Espresso Officer. Enjoy your brew.